Hey, everybody, this is Rory McDonald from MacDon and Associates coming to you with the next episode of Tuesdays with Rory. In the studio today, I have a new friend that I'm super pumped to have here. This is Chris Mack. He is a film producer, film creator, and also in the midst of making a movie right now, which we're super excited to talk to you all about. But without further ado, Chris Mack, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're all about, man.
Yeah, so I grew up within Metro Detroit, born in Detroit, raised in Warren, as probably the most typical Metro Detroiter story is. But so I grew up here in Metro Detroit. That definitely brings like a cool reputation when you go anywhere else in the state and even in the country. I started to study filmmaking. I went to Spring Arbor University and studied film and theater there. But by the time I got into my sophomore year, I decided to transfer to a film school in Grand Rapids. That's called Compass College of Cinematic Arts. And that really exposed me more into the world of like independent filmmaking. And that's basically what they taught us to be, was to be an independent filmmaker more than just like a video producer or in the corporate world. They did touch on it a little bit, and they touched on like forming a business and LLCs and things like that. But they really taught us how to be like an independent filmmaker. And so that worked out really well for me because that's exactly what I wanted to do. Knowing that the business side and the corporate side of things is a necessity for living, because the Hollywood blockbusters that most people see are like just the cream of the crop. Everyone that goes to a film school obviously isn't going to become like Steven Spielberg. But they're doing their rounds, and as video has gotten so popular for social media and even streaming and short form content, the world of video is just like it's going to be the dominating medium, moving forward. So it's when I decided to go into filmmaking, I had no idea that was on the horizon. I was kind of late to the game in figuring that out, even though I saw YouTube and I was watching YouTube. It wasn't as like this whole influencer motivated world. You ask most kids what they want to be when they grow up, and they're like, I want to be a YouTuber now. And it's like, I don't know what that says about society. Maybe I have some ideas, but it's definitely a really cool and exciting space to be in, since this kind of like video revolution that's going on.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that completely. I think if you're talking about the social media aspect of it, the changes that have happened in the last, just 5 years. You go back just pre-COVID, even just the last 5 years. I post things online all the time, and like the amount of interaction that happens between it being a video versus it being just a random photo with some words behind it is remarkable. The amount of people who will actually interact with you is pretty crazy. But yeah, no, that's so true. I wanted to get into your film. So we're both Christians. We both love Jesus, which is really cool for me to be able to say and be able to share with the community here. But you're creating an independent film. You're in the process of doing this, and you've got a few shorts that are being created leading up to that, correct?
Yeah.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about this film. I know it's called Sons of Thunder, but it's a play on what it is that Jesus has already said to the sons of Zebedee, right? Mm-hmm. But I want you to really kind of dig in and give us your heart behind creating this. Why? Like, not everybody wants to go and create a video. Like, you're going very in depth into where you're going with this is what I mean. It's revolving around Jesus, which I want your heart in that too.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about the Sons of Thunder.
Yeah. So a little bit just backstory of my testimony, I guess. I grew up a PK, pastor's kid. My dad was a youth pastor all throughout my early childhood and right about entering into high school, actually middle school. So I was entering 6th grade, and he felt led to start a plant church on 9 Mile. And so from 6th grade to my senior year of high school, 12th grade, we were doing a plant church. So we were having church in my basement. We were having church in like rec centers. We were having church in random buildings that were like favors from friends of my dad. It was a really unique experience for that. And And so I've always had intimacy with Jesus. Ever since a young age, there may have not been a whole lot of wisdom and may not have been a whole lot of scriptural knowledge or theological knowledge for that matter, but there was always intimacy. And I think that's something that, the church, I think, misses sometimes, is that you can have intimacy with Jesus and not know every single, doctrine and everything. And good doctrine is important, but it's
not the only thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that as like a basis of who I am, what I built my life around is the teachings of Christ. And so as that applies to filmmaking, is that, Jesus, when we look at scripture, is a storyteller. He is someone who is passionate about communicating heavenly truths through parables. And that's, evident through all of his teachings. And you ask any preacher out there, they're gonna have a certain, like, basically a structure of how they structure sermons, and storytelling is a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a filmmaker and going as so far to say an artist, in that being able to communicate truth about what Jesus has taught and what Jesus has brought to the world is important to me. And I think so much of like Christian cinema and Christian films are a little bit it almost comes off as like propaganda a little bit, and just kind of, they're already kind of preaching to the choir.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if Sons of Thunder is necessarily like a quote unquote Christian genre film, because there's a difference between, it's like that, really almost now cliche C.S. Lewis quote of, we need less Christian writers and more writers who are Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably butchering that quote, but it's
No,
a really popular one. And so there's definitely an industry revolved around, like, let's hit a target market who are Christians and let's just make this kind of film and they can accept this kind of thing, versus, making a script that is theologically inspired, that revolves around, communicating themes and treating the audience with intelligence, but still communicating a deep truth. And so the deep truth and the core debate of Sons of Thunder is revenge versus grace. And the story is about these two brothers who go on a revenge drive to hunt down the gang leaders who killed their middle brother. And they fight the gang and each other the whole drive. And that was important to me to have, this kind of action, because I was really like, I just always loved these kind of gang coming of age movies like The Outsiders or The Warriors or West Side Story. I always loved the action, and there is admittedly some wrestling with that, as Jesus's nonviolent lifestyle demonstrates in scripture. Like I wrestle with that and trying to figure out where is the Christ-like, I guess, response to violence, and that's something I want to explore in film. And still yet being attracted to it and being attracted to action, but also having emotional storytelling and emotional heart. And that's, there's a lot of like grief in the film. And it's part of the Beatitudes of God is close to those who mourn.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are mourn are blessed. And so, exploring grief and exploring loss, as one of the brothers tragically dies, and in this violence, and so that's what the film's about, and that's what I really want to explore with the medium, and have that be just as much of a tool to open the door to the gospel and open a door to Jesus's teachings, as much as it is just a creation and a piece of art that glorifies him.
Yeah, I think that's good, man. That's awesome. I'm with you on the whole like Christian cinematography. Like the movies are good. They are good, but and people, I think, on the outside who are not necessarily following Jesus yet might watch that movie and go, "Wow, yes, I'm following Jesus." But the reality is there's this like, you're right. You're preaching to the choir. You know what I mean?
it's pandering,
Yeah.
And
and there's a sense like with the film that you're describing, like I lots of action. I got to imagine there's some colorful language that RSL probably exists within the film too.
a little bit. And that's like, I was taught at Spring Arbor, by a really great professor who was my basically theater professor. I was like, if a blue collar plumber, Christian or not, whacks his thumb, he's likely not going to say ow,
Sure.
And that's what these kids are. It's like, yeah, they might go to church, but that doesn't mean their language is necessarily sanctified. And anyone who's worked in youth ministry knows these type of kids. That was my first job coming out of college, was being a youth pastor. And that was, you get kids who like are still maturing into like, oh, this is how a Christian acts. This is how a Christian walks out their faith. And so, yeah, the language, it's not gratuitous, but it is definitely like, these kids are a certain type of breed that aren't necessarily the churchy kids,
Sure.
that, but their lives still communicate a truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing that God enters into people's lives, even whether they recognize it or not, and tells a story through that. So
yeah, I think that's true. It brings me back to the scripture when Jesus says, it's not the well who are in need of a doctor, right? It's those who are sick.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, we see this a lot in just like Christianity in general. Like, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's drinking in your film. Somebody smoked a cigarette. You're not allowed to do that. And it's like, well, time out. You're not who I'm trying to reach. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the reality is your willingness to glorify the gospel, to glorify what it is that Jesus did for people who they might not ever find the Christian based, type movie that they're going to want something a little bit more hard, a little bit more gritty, a little bit more raw. Mm-hmm. And if that progresses the movement of the gospel, praise God.
Yeah.
That's right. Cool. That's awesome.
And that doesn't mean that we like compromise on what Jesus teaches. Like, and I think language is the only area that I have been actually struggling with, of like, I would never put an actor in a situation where they would have to act out more adult themes. And I don't necessarily know, like I'm assuming the age range is a little higher here, so they probably know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But like you watch even just like whatever is on Netflix, you watch the show You, and that's like there's a lot of adult themes in that that actor just got kind of like blown up on for like being like, I don't really want to, get in a whole lot of physical altercations with other actresses because I'm committed to my wife. And so that's something I would never, make an actor go through, because at the end of the day, that's not acting. That's you are doing at that point. And so language, I feel a little similarly, that's like they are saying these words. And so it's this really tough battle of like truthful storytelling and truthful representation of a person, and also like trying to balance an ethic. And I think language is that place of like I can really strategically shoot something to demonstrate intimacy between two people, but to have somebody think about them speaking truthfully and how they talk is a little challenging. So, so that's all to say, like, we don't compromise on that. And I'm prayerfully approaching language within that. But yeah, just because people do want something gritty and do want to see something maybe a little actiony, like I would, most of my favorite films are actiony. It still doesn't mean that we compromise on what Jesus teaches. So
yeah, no, I agree completely. So in addition to that, one of the things that I've noticed about you guys have a separate like social media account for the movie too, correct? Or is it all flowing directly through your?
It's all kind of flowing directly through me, because we've been really grassroots at this point, because short films don't generate a return on investment. And so as we've been approaching investors, we've created a business plan, and we've created, we've held 3 fundraisers where we've discussed the business plan and went through it in depth. And part of that is like obviously having the ask and saying like the budget breakdown, like this is exactly where all the money's going. But also understanding that unfortunately short films just don't make anything. And so because of that, like, I really wrestled on like setting up an LLC or not doing that. Ultimately, I decided not to. And just because, there's still like taxes involved with that. And if it's like a short film and a small project that's hopefully leading into the feature length version, I don't know if I want to like create an LLC for the short film and then create another LLC for the feature length film.
Sure.
And then continually do all that. So all that to say, everything's kind of running through me at this point because we're very intentional about being grassroots and like personal connections first. And then as we approach the feature, we're going to generate more like social media accounts and LLCs and things like that that'll generate basically audience to that. But so all of it's gone through me, through my social media and my producers. So
yeah. Well, in addition to the creation of the movies, there's more that you do in addition to that. And one of the things that I wanted to compliment you on is one of the things that I've noticed about the social media stuff that you're creating in making, even your website that's scrolling across the screen right now, like is your ability to build the brand that is Chris Mack, first of all, and then also your ability to build a brand around the Sons of Thunder. Like they're two separate things and they still roll through you, like you're saying. But when people hear Sons of Thunder, they're going to think two things. One, the Bible story of, James and John and them being told to settle down by Jesus. And then also, hopefully your movie. Like that's what a part of building a brand is all about. And then same thing when it comes to Chris Mack. For those out there who are other small businesses who are listening potentially right now, what kind of things have you done? Whether it's like just being consistent or knowing your message and being consistent with that. What are some of the things that other business owners that are listening right now might be able to take from a filmmaker that they can potentially use within their own business?
Yeah, that, between everything since, really starting my professional life coming out of college, most of the realm that I've been in has been social media. And even within like the youth pastor gig was social media and being like, how do I effectively communicate to Gen Z and connect with them? And so social media is really the most accessible place for small businesses to really promote their brand and get out there. And obviously this isn't like anything new. Everyone knows this, but what they might not know is that each social media platform has its own social norms. And so you have to know intimately, like if you want to be successful on those, you have to know the social norms of those platforms. And we're getting to the point where it's like now a platform like Instagram has some longevity on it and they're constantly changing to stay up with whatever the next social media program is. Like they just blatantly steal things from other platforms.
It's true.
I remember the first time that they started doing stories, which is like they blatantly stole that from Snapchat.
Yeah.
And now like I hardly go on Snapchat. I just go on Instagram for stories. But yeah, you have to be kind of up to date on the social norms and like knowing how to caption things and all that. And it really is like, a department in and of itself that if you're a small business, bringing on someone that knows those or like being able to educate you on those is important. But just to give some tips on it, obviously everyone talks about the algorithms. Coming to know those is good, but they change. And so, consistency, like you said, is majorly important. Just being constant. And, I don't think consistency always has to be video content. I heard recently that Instagram is like wanting to dial back a little bit and again, promote picture and graphic stuff. And so like consistency is almost less for audience and more for that algorithm at this point that like, obviously like, yeah, you'll hit audience and people will like it. But the point of them liking it is just to show Instagram like, hey, I'm posting, so don't, limit my reach or anything. Yeah. And then so that way when you do post a video, it's still reaching the amount of people that it needs to. And yeah, having like been in the social media world for marketing, I was I did social media marketing for Grace Centers of Hope. And then I did it for a loans company, Connect Mortgage Funding, which both were really great experiences and very different because of like the change of basically entering into the TikTok era where like everything, even Spotify, is becoming TikTokified.
Yeah. TikTokified. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
And so it's like, even within that span, it's like there's been a change that, you have to be on like the cusp of what's going on. But yeah, having the background of like loving photography, enjoying graphic design. I'm not like the best graphic designer by any means, but I can get what I want basically, and it looks effective, and keep it simple, and it usually works out. And then obviously a background in video and how all those mesh together into basically everything that social media needs. And so there's a lot of tools like Canva, and I'm an Adobe guy. But if you're out there as a small business and you're doing it yourself, Canva is a great tool. I've personally like never used it. My wife also deals with social media and has extensive experience in it, and so she used it for a lot of her clients. And so that's a great tool for anyone that's looking. And I feel bad because like this seems almost like really basic stuff, and so I'm trying to think of something that is a good note for more.
I wouldn't even apologize to that though, because sometimes like this is the thing that a lot of small businesses get caught up in, is they see what other businesses are doing and what the other business and they see them being successful at it, and they go, we need to change, we need to do something different. And the reality is just it revolves around other businesses that are being successful and this being really good at the basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like consistency is a huge thing. I see this all the time where like even I don't get I'm not perfect at this, right? Like nobody is, but if you're posting 5 days a week, like that might sound crazy to some people. 5 days a week, that's a lot. How do I create that much content? What are you doing? Like content right now is us shooting a video and just going, hey, we're shooting a podcast here. I'm here with Chris Mack. He's a film creator here in Metro Detroit. Go check out his stuff. Just created content. You know what I mean? Like just being a resource for people that, it's just one of those things that people don't think about.
Yeah.
That's being really good at the basics is a huge piece of it.
Yeah. And something on that, if you're one of those people that's like, it's like 5 days of content, like how am I going to do that? I'm learning this from the YouTube space, and YouTube is almost acting like its own thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like it seems like all the other social media platforms are trying to stay in that TikTok space. And I think YouTube is realizing that's not their brand. Like they can't be successful like that. And so they're going back to the long form medium, it seems like, or media. But what I'm learning from some successful YouTubers is that they record a really long stretch of content. So whether that's an hour or whatever. And then within that, on social media, you just need, a minute or less clip to throw up on your stuff. So if you can record an hour a day, or maybe I should say it like this, an hour a week, you set one day aside, an hour a week, you record something that's long form, you can throw that up on YouTube. So you have a piece of content there, and then you're able to chop that up and then post that throughout the week. You've just basically, set yourself up, and you can program those and be scheduled and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like probably a day's work, you know, but, and so it's not easy. But, it's definitely like if you're like, oh, that's so much to do, you can at least probably get it all done in one day. Now, you don't have to be like constantly at it every single day. Cause like I created these videos to promote the fundraiser. And man, like it seems so like seamless. And being able to like just hop on in front of your phone and just start talking and get there. But I'm trying to keep it under a minute, and I'm having to do take after take after take. Eventually, by the time I've gotten a take that I like, it's been 30 minutes.
Yeah, and
then I have to go into the edit of that, of like just quickly edit that on my phone, and that's like at the very least 15 minutes. That could be another half hour,
right?
And then there's like captioning and
everything.
So it's for those who are like out there that like have a budget and they're like, should I invest into a social media marketer? I would say do it. If you have the means, do it. If you don't, that's cool. You can survive. But if you can pass it off, like I would definitely have someone that just focuses on that, because between every single platform that's out there these days, it's definitely a full-time job.
Yeah. Speaking of which, with that specifically, the different platforms that are out there, a lot of people, they're like, well, do I need to be on TikTok? Do I need to be on Instagram? Do I need to be on LinkedIn? Do I need to be on Facebook? Where do I need to be? Who's the audience that you're trying to reach? Right. You know what I mean? Like if you're I don't know, a contractor, chances are the best thing for you to do is be on Instagram and Facebook, not TikTok, because it's all, high school and college age kids that don't own homes for you to do contracting work, right? So it's knowing the audience that are on those different platforms. And another thing too, and this is revolving around you when it comes to the film side of things. And we're going to have a conversation around this as well, is promotional side. Like take the social media aspect out of like helping these businesses control the social media side, even just coming in as a consultative, like, hey, let me help you come with an idea of things to post, first of all, but then also like, let me create a promotional video so that you've got this very professional video on your website, on your social media pages for people to then see and go, oh, wow, this is a legit company. This is a real thing. You do that kind of stuff as well, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I, there are definitely guys who are like more established full-time freelancers. Since my career goals are more in an independent film space, that's where I've focused a lot. And I've had just, your regular 9-to-5s to, provide for me and my wife. And that's, I guess growing up, my dad was like, he has been working for the city of Warren my entire life. So it's always been like security, stability is great. Yeah. And when what he tells me is like, son, whenever someone asks you what you want to be when you grow up, you say retired. And so, it's been hard for me to like get into the freelance space. I have friends who like rock it. It's a space that I'm still like trying to figure out, honestly. But with that being said, like I do get these freelance gigs every now and then that, we just talk about what their goals are and what's the story that they want to tell. And to give an example of this, my cousin, and I think this will be a good perspective into like brands about if they approach someone like me, the type of conversation that they're going to have and what to be prepared for, is that I literally just had a conversation with my cousin last night. He's starting up a small food truck or beverage truck that's going to have like unique, drinks made and that are non-alcoholic and sodas and things like that. And so, my first thought as a video maker is like, who are your audience? Like, where are you going to take this truck? Are you going to aim for weddings and events? Or are you going to go around local and hit up, just drive around to like, whatever construction sites popping up in your city and trying to get all the business from them? And he was able to answer with that really well. He's like, well, I think it's going to be more like driving around, especially for holidays like Memorial Day, 4th of July. And I was like, that's great, knowing that. So like definitely knowing your market is what I'm wondering, because at the end of the day, that's, even as a filmmaker, it's like, who's my audience? Who am I making this for? As a filmmaker, who am I making Sons of Thunder for? It's for Christians who want to be treated as intellectuals. And I hope that I can feed that to them. But also as just a contractor, it's like, who are you trying to reach? What does your brand want to make people feel? And that was that question I asked my cousin. It's like, at the end of the day, like you may have your logo made up and you may have, your truck design and you're wrapped in your logo, but that doesn't tell me who you are. Mm-hmm. So you need to be able to, it really comes down to the simple who, what, where, when, and how kind of mindset of like, who are you? What are you trying to instill into others with your product? And then, following the questions from there. But you look at like any sort of brand. So like I love Vans shoes. I rock with them all the time. And they have a very specific brand that's like kind of, it's kind of like edgy. It's kind of punk rock. It's kind of, it's definitely the skater brand. It communicates a certain level of like casualness style, and comfort. That like I feel like those 3 words are what I would use to describe myself pretty well. And so you look at any brand that you love, Apple, Cadillac, you know.
Yeah.
I currently work for a marketing company that their client is GM, and in their live videos they literally say there's no other way to describe our new EV vehicles other than saying we are the Cadillac of EV. And it's like being able to brand yourself to the point where like your description of yourself is your own brand is a certain level of like brand genius that is, you know, great.
Yeah, it's a real thing, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so I just to put a pin on it, like bringing someone in just to discuss brand identity is a great thing. And as a video maker, I can like help you decide those things. But if you already have that set and ready to go, that just expedites the process for me. Because then I can just be like, okay, so you're just consulting me about this video. I can take your brand, make a video around that brand. But if you're like, we got a logo, and it's like, okay, well, let's unpack let's make a brand identity right here and now, and then make a video about that.
Yeah, I gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So, man, this is a good podcast. I'm glad that I was able to, we were able to work out having you on. For people out there who are listening, obviously there's a lot of different ways for them to go. If they're a business owner right now and they're listening and going, dang, yes, it would make sense for us to sit down. I am looking to have some sort of promotional video, but I just have the logo. I need you to help me build a brand. Definitely reach out to this guy. I have his website scrolling across the bottom, and his email is on there as well. But another piece that I really, really, really want to hit on is revolving around Sons of Thunder. You guys are still in the collection phase, if that makes sense, of having the funds in order to shoot your video and be able to get this the gospel message out to my camera just went bad. I'll switch it over to you. To have that come out to people. And so being able to get people to you that way as well would be awesome. So if you are out there and you are interested in getting in touch with Chris Mack, producer of Sons of Thunder and local videographer and freelancer when it comes to video and social media as well, definitely reach out to this guy, check out his website, and to get in touch with him. We are super thankful for you guys. I know you can't see me on the video right now, but we're thankful for you. Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Tuesdays with Rory. Besides that, you guys have a blessed day. We'll see you.
Thanks.